Hi, David Rombett here. This is a day for a poem from a book of mine called Some Church. And the poem is called Fixing Fence. It's inspired by the Robert Frost poem Mending Wall. And I thought, following the 2020 elections in the United States, fixing fence might be the best thing we could try to do. Fixing fence. Nobody I know loves fixing fence, setting creosoted posts into ground hard as rock, stretching barbed wire taut to sing in rising wind and burning sun. In the fall, when hunters come, it's worse. Wind drifted snow, gates left open, and wire cut. They would make for themselves a straight line from kill to truck and drag the carcasses across the ground. Sometimes I miss these cuts and find weeks later a band of sheep far from home. Sometimes I find the cuts after a storm when the trail is clear and it is cold. Often enough, it is a fence not solely my own, but one I share with a neighbor. And so I go and speak to him, and we meet on a day when the cold will freeze our feet and hands. We wrestle with the wire and the come along and curse together, saying, "Sons of bitches," again, grinning, "Sons of bitches." We find a fence post driven over and splintered, and I go to the truck for another, and we have to use a pick and a bar in the frozen earth. We put our backs into it, but it's no go, and we decide to use magic, the levitation trick. Instead of setting the post into the earth, we let it float above ground, held upright by wire pulled tight on either side, rocks stacked around. It works! Sons of bitches! We drink coffee from a thermos. In the cold, I pull off my gloves to set the fencing staples and drive them in, to release the come along and start again. My hands are so dry, the skin cracks around my fingernails, and I bleed. This happens every winter. I put bag balm on the split skin and wrap it tight using cotton wads from the top of the aspirin bottle and a strip of greasy masking tape I found in the jockey box of the truck. Gloves back on, I complain, but it is fine. The bright sun and glittering snow, my neighbor, whom I like plenty well enough, and who does this work with me. He's a smiling, fat man, cattle, while I am sheep. When I say I'm sorry about the cut fence, he looks up and says, "Hell, don't bother me none. Sides, ain't your doing, damn eastern hunters." I'm grateful he trusts me and believes it is the hunters, and not me, cutting the fence myself to let my stock onto his range, where they can get some free feed. What do you suppose them assholes is thinking, anyway? I don't know, I answer. But I can bet not a one of them ever fixed fence. And I lean back and slam a staple into a splintering post so cold the creosote smell is gone. Even in this cold I'm sweating, and I take off my hat to wipe my forehead, feel the sweat freeze there. Fences! Once upon a time, my neighbor says, there weren't no fences in this country. My granddad can tell about it, how there was herders everywhere, every herder with his sheep wagon and dog, some of them with a horse. You remember that herder busted both his legs and somehow drug himself up on a rise, then got his horse to stand there on the low side, and he slid onto the horse and it walked on into town? Resourceful son of a gun. And he hits the post again with a hard blow of the hammer. Fences. Always fixing 'em. Always will be. Makes me think of how a big storm comes and the wind drifts the snow over the fence lines and sheep will walk right up and over into the next county and on south. That's why I run cows. Even if I know them old-time gods don't want no fences anyways. Knock 'em all down if they could. Again, the hammer blow and the smile. And I look at my neighbor and I realize that he's a friend. Hammer in hand, staples in his mouth, we work through the short, near solstice afternoon. When the sun drops behind the rim of the mountains, the cold comes on. Better go in, I say. And he says, I'll just get this and we'll be done. So we work 10 more minutes, snowbank and shade, ice and light. Okay then, he says. Looks good enough for now. We can set that post when the ground thaws. When the ground thaws? Yeah, he laughs. Next spring. I'll see you then.